Welcome to the Fitness Doctor on ESPN 730, the program where we address your exercise, nutrition, and overall health needs. My name is Cannady, and now an exercise physiologist in the School of Sports Sciences at Wingate University, the Fitness Doctor, John Acquaviva.
I like it. The got stronger, longer than last week. I love it. Good job, Aaron. Thank you, my man. Today, our topic is the technology that has invaded the world of exercise. Just like phones and computers, there's an evolution with fitness technology, or what many call fitness gadgets, or what my guest today is deemed fitness gadgetry, right? But we'll talk about that and a bunch of other stuff, and focus on the latest in technology in the world of fitness. Aaron, what's in store for us today?
This segment's rundown includes special in-studio guest John Ware, quick Q&A with La Dr. A, the social media breakdown, and fitness nuts in the news. All
right, folks, let's get to it. My special guest today is John Ware. He was with us last week, and I think you folks are going to recognize his face and his voice. He's an expert in the field of all things exercise and fitness. He's a fellow exercise physiologist, a personal trainer, and owner of Boost Fitness Ventures, a personal training studio in Richmond, Virginia. John, welcome back to the show, and thanks for being here.
Appreciate it. Nice
Ready
to be
to talk about technology and everything that's associated with it?
Bring it.
You ready? Okay.
Yeah.
I want him to smile when he says that, but he wasn't really smiling that much. That's fine. A little bit more on our topic of the day. It's technology and fitness. A fact that is obvious to fitness professionals and clients is that technology has become part of this field. Our goal today is to discuss some of the latest in techno-fitness, and perhaps we'll touch on one of the pieces of technology that can get you started in your program or keep you motivated in your exercise regimen. Along the way, we hope to hear from some of our listeners. Speaking of hearing from our listeners, how can people get in touch with us, Aaron?
If you have a question regarding fitness gadgets or would like to request a future topic, you can follow us on Twitter at WU Fitness Doctor. It's all one word. Or you can like our page on Facebook at Woo Fitness Doctor. And as always, you can shoot us an email at woofitnessdoctor@wingate.edu. And now it's time for the quick Q&A with Dr. A. So where I shoot a couple of questions at the doc specifically to get us rolling on today's topic.
Perfect.
Doc, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Question number 1. Is any particular form of technology necessary to get into shape?
No, I would not say that you need this over this or that any form of technology is vital. But because people like music and are so motivated by music, I say if nothing else, if they're going to be on a treadmill, if they're going to be out running or walking, if they're going to be on an exercise bike, get a decent set of music via an iPod or just some type of radio device, something that can shoot some music at you that is motivating. And I think, if nothing else, that'll be a good place to start.
My workout's not the same if I don't have
one. Same here. In fact, when I see people run, especially for long distances without any earpieces in, I'm like, I want to ask them, how do you do that?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, you kind of look silly carrying that 8-track player around.
Question number 2. Which is the best to get started?
Gosh, maybe a pedometer, but again, we'll talk a little bit more about a pedometer, but I'm not sure there's one that's best, but I would go back to music. Some type of music. People love music. They can select what they want to hear. And I think when you turn to that, that's a good place to start.
It can affect your cadence and also distract you.
That's right.
From the uncomfortable feeling.
That's right. If a slow Frank Sinatra song comes on, then you'll go from a sprint to like a slow walk.
A saunter. Yeah.
Saunter.
Question number 3. Speaking of pedometers, why do people use them?
Well, a pedometer gauges basically the movement from your body at your hips. Sometimes they're clipped on. Those are the kind of old school ones now that pedometers and accelerators are on your wrist. But it just it measures movement, and it can estimate how many steps you take, whether it's a run or a walk. And it can determine how many steps you take in a day. And one of the things that people do is if they walk so many steps yesterday, let's say they walked 5,500 steps yesterday, they might make a goal to walk 5,600 today. So it's the amount of steps through some movement measurement on the device.
All right, it's the quick Q&A of the day. Now, back to the doc.
Aaron, thank you very much. Okay, we have again in our studio with us John Ware. He's a fitness expert, a clinical exercise physiologist, an exercise physiologist like me. And him and I not only like to talk on air, but we love to talk about fitness on and off air. And we thought this would be a good thing to do is talk about fitness, because this is a really good way for fitness and technology, because this is a really good way. People love technology so much with their computers and with their phones and so forth. And of course, with the technology people have done, they've just brought technology into the world of fitness. John, let's talk about a few things that can maybe help people in their regimen or help get them going or motivate them. What are some things that you know about?
You mean beyond the pedometer, just other types of?
Yeah, let's talk about pedometer. What are the most basic forms? In fact, the ones that have been around the longest: the pedometer and probably the heart rate monitor, right?
Right. Yep. But even before that, I can recall a time when people would use lap counters in their hand. They would click off a lap.
This is really going to confuse people.
collection.
Yeah. So in other words, they had like an abacus of sort in their hands.
Yeah. Wear it around the neck, slide it. Works out well.
They're a form of a rosary. They move over one bead for each lap. Okay, that's going too far back for our listeners, I think.
All right.
But let's talk about like a heart rate monitor. What does that do?
Yeah, I think the most common that you see out there, it's been around for a while, the polar monitor. It's designed to be to have a transmitter and a receiver in the form of a watch, and transmitter typically is in the form of a strap with a couple of electrodes that makes contact with the surface of the skin, and it measures the impulses of the heart, and then those impulses are transmitted to the receiver, and then that impulse is sort of calculated into a pulse rate per minute.
Here's the big question: why do we care about what our heart rate is?
Well, I mean, it is a good way to determine where you fall relative to a prescribed intensity. So, there are a lot of calculations out there that sort of tell you where you should be exercising for a particular result. And this is a good way to sort of capture that information without having to actually manually touch your artery and try to count.
Yeah, especially if people are moving, like in traffic on a bike or they're running along. It's virtually impossible to determine what your heart rate is. If you're on a stationary bike, you can do that.
Sure.
But to put this in perspective, like one of the formulas that John talked about was it's simply what's called the target heart rate formula. 220 minus your age gives you your maximum heart rate. So say if you're 30 years old, 220 minus your age would be 190. And that's how many beats per minute would be your maximum. Now we can reach our maximum, we can't sustain it. So we would work out at a percentage of that. So let's say we wanted to work out at 70% of 190, and that would probably be somewhere around, 165 or 170. And this heart rate monitor would determine whether we're near or at this 170 beats per minute.
Exactly. There's a caveat. I hope people understand that these are predictive equations.
Yeah, that's right.
And there are a lot of reasons why they're not always really accurate.
Yeah.
So if you have any heart complications or on medications anything that might influence your natural heart rhythm, then you might not necessarily want to use those.
That's right, because then it's not a real good predictor of where your intensity is at.
You could end up working way harder than your
or not hard enough, actually. Yeah, but
capable.
Most people work harder because, like, for instance, if they're on medication, that lowers their blood pressure, it lowers their heart rate, and this is going to affect this reading on how hard they're working or should be working.
So you have to be aware of those things before you use them.
What other stuff's out there that folks would like to know about, or maybe have heard about a little bit?
As of late, it's the movement tracking devices. There's a whole list of them. The one I'm most familiar with is a Fitbit.
Does Nike make Fitbit? I think
Nike makes Fuel,
which is similar, right? It's a similar wristband
technology. Yeah.
And these, I've seen pictures of most of these. I've actually never used them. But they all look kind of like the armband.
Little bracelet.
Little bracelet, kind of like the Live Strong.
There's a fashion component associated. Because you typically wear them all day long, so there are people like them to look normal.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to a polar strap around your chest.
Exactly. And what do these wristbands do?
Well, they're designed to monitor acceleration of your body. And every time your body moves, that information is collected, and then that information is put into these calculations. Within the band, there are little computer chips that sort of will calculate information for you based on the amount of times that the band moves.
Yep.
So.
And some of them, is it the Fitbit? No, it's actually another one that's called Lark Life. And this thing, it actually goes a step further and maybe goes a little beyond, or at least to the side of what Fitbit does. And it has questions based on what you're doing or what you're not doing that day. Like, so for instance, if it senses that you're not moving much, it'll bounce questions towards you about, like, are you at work today? Are you doing less activity than you normally do? And then based on your response to the questions that it asks you, it gives you tips to maybe get moving more, eat better, sleep better, whatever the case is. So
Right. It's like that trainer in your ear all day long. He's there to remind you you're being lazy.
Do you know anybody that uses that?
The one you just described,
or anything like that?
Oh yeah, in fact, I'm familiar with Fitbit because I know there's a I'm connected to an insurance company that has actually kind of incorporated that into some of the benefits that they offer their policyholders as a way of monitoring prescribed exercises. It just gives people an opportunity to report back that they're actually doing what they've been asked to do in terms of their physical activity.
So ultimately, do you see this as a great advancement in fitness, or just a sidebar, something worth noting, but not necessarily the key to...
I think it's just a necessary evil. I think at this point now, insurance companies are looking for ways to motivate people, and then when you do that, you have to track it. You can't go off people's honesty a lot of times. So
plus, one of the things that we have to bring up, and I think this is a key, is that one of the reasons that people respond to instruments like this is because people simply like technology. They like the newest and the latest and the greatest thing. And if it's going to maybe assist them, or they think it's going to assist them in the world of fitness and their exercise program, then they're probably all for it.
Sure. Yeah. And with smartphone technology, now there's a Bluetooth integration where the information comes from your band to your phone, and then that brings a whole social component. Now people can compete with other people, and so there can be a competitive component.
I ran 45 miles today. How did you do? Right, that's what they're
right, and I would tell you I ran more than that, no matter what.
And even though both of us are lying, right?
Well, I strapped my Fitbit to my dog and played frisbee with it for 3 hours.
That's right. So. You get all the credit for your dog's movement, folks. That's the voice of John Ware. He's my guest today. I am Dr. John Acquaviva. You're listening to the Fitness Doctor on ESPN 730. We have a couple minutes left in this segment. Aaron, what do we got before we take a break here?
We have the fitness nuts in the news. This is a segment where I find something nutty or awkward or outrageous,
downright
in the world of
awkward,
fitness and nutrition. And this one is pretty crazy. Alasia Montano, she's a U.S. track and field competitor.
Okay.
She competes in the 800 meters.
Okay.
And this past June in the U.S. track and field championships, she ran the 800 meters in 2 minutes and 32 seconds, which is average. But here's the catch. She was 8 months pregnant.
I saw the clip of this on ESPN, I think.
8 months pregnant. And she said she consulted with her doctors and physicians, and they actually encouraged her
to do this. And my guess is the reason they encouraged her to do this is because over the last couple of decades, doctors have gone from sit still in those last couple of months of pregnancy to work out up until the day you give birth. And we talked about this with the guest that we had on a couple of months ago. But not only did she run this 800 meters, it was actually a decent time.
Competitive, yeah.
Yeah. She didn't get lapped or anything.
Yeah.
She was moving. She did her thing, but 8 months pregnant.
And then do we know anything about when she went into labor? Like, did she go into labor like 30 seconds after she
No.
The funny thing is that the child actually was faster. It came in hundreds of seconds before her.
The baby beat the mother. That's right. And tell us the name of this competitor.
I hope I'm saying her name right. Alasia Montano.
And she's one of our track and field athletes.
Yeah.
So
her career best time is 1 minute 57 seconds. She represented the U.S. in the Olympics in 2012.
Oh yeah. So no, she's a player. She's a big time player.
That's very impressive.
She's a pretty good.
I like that. Did you see the clip of this?
I did see the clip of it.
I saw the clip of it as well. And actually, she was moving pretty well.
Yeah, she was moving pretty well. I was surprised.
She was probably pretty frustrated though. Saying to her baby, "I normally move much quicker than this. Dang it! When are you going to come out?" But that's great. The fitness nuts in the news. Okay, folks. We just want to let you know you're listening to the Fitness Doctor on ESPN 730. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. More of the show after this message.
Planning your next step in life? Come complete your education in a dynamic, caring environment at Wingate University. Enrollment and construction have skyrocketed in the past 2 decades as students pursue challenging and rewarding degrees in fields like the health sciences, business, and education. U.S. News & World Report has named Wingate University the 6th best value in the South. Visit one of our 3 great campuses, Wingate, North Carolina, Hendersonville, or Charlotte, or check us out at wingate.edu. Major in a great life at Wingate University.
Welcome back to the Fitness Doctor, the program where we address your exercise, nutrition, and overall health needs. I'm Dr. John Acquaviva, an exercise physiologist in the School of Sports Sciences at Wingate University. Aaron, what do we have for this segment of the show?
The segment's rundown includes special and studio guest John Ware, more on technology and fitness, social media breakdown, and the takeaway.
All right, let's get back to it. Today we're discussing some technology that has been designed to assist people in some aspect of their exercise program, often monitoring how fast they're going, how many calories they're burning. Some of them go as far as to ask questions or analyze their nutritional data, their sleeping patterns, and so forth. In fact, we talked about some of those things like Fitbit in the first part of the show, the bands that people wear that supply data on how quickly they're running, what their pulse is, and so forth. We talked about some of the basic stuff like heart rate monitors and the purpose of that. We even talked about pedometers and accelerators that determine not only how many steps you take, but how fast you're walking and so forth. And we're going to continue discussing that with our guest, John Ware. But before we go on, Aaron, give us the social media info.
If you have a question regarding fitness gadgets or like to request a future topic, you can tweet us at the at the Twitter handle, Woo Fitness Doctor, all one word, or like our page on Facebook at WU Fitness Doctor. And always, you can shoot us an email at woofitnessdoctor@wingate.edu.
Let's go to a question. I saw one that just came in for John. Aaron, what's that one?
Matter of fact, from the Twitter handle, The Fitness King, he asked for John Ware. I was thinking about buying an Xbox Connect. Would that really help me get into shape?
What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I think any of these technologies can help if you use them. That's the critical thing. I've seen the Kinect. It's got some pretty good technology. I mean, it's demonstrating various exercises. It kind of gives you a little bit of a cue for how to perform them properly. It's kind of a passive trainer. But it gives you something to look at and sort of compare yourself to, and allows you to have something to sort of keep a pace with. So I think it's got a lot of value.
I think it has
starting out anyway. I mean, if you're
exactly.
If you're
Well, here's one of the things is exercise physiologists have jumped on board in trying to determine what value does Wii Fit and Xbox and what was the other one we talked about off air?
PlayStation Move.
PlayStation, yeah. And so they're all in the same avenue of trying to bring fitness through technology and through like a TV and a joystick and so forth. Or what was it called? The exercise wand, for instance, when you play tennis and golf and all that stuff that kind of tracks the movement. Exercise physiologists have jumped on board on this, and they've tried to determine exactly what the caloric expenditure is, and it's a very little change in overall caloric expenditure. For instance, this one study showed that at rest, for instance, we burn about 1 calorie per minute, and most people that were playing with these PlayStations and Wii Fits and so forth, they went from 1 to 1.5. Now, to put that in perspective, if you started jogging, you would go from 1 calorie per minute to around 6 to 10 calories.
I think it's important to remember, though, that like, for instance, the Wii, it's really meant for entertainment. It's kind of a gaming system. The Kinect, I think, is a little bit more fitness related. So I don't know if that was involved in that study, because I've seen people use it. I mean, it can get you out of breath pretty quick.
But isn't part of it is you can manipulate the joystick or the wand and to make the movement for the sport or the activity being done, but it doesn't necessarily transfer to real movement that should be done.
Right, like a full body movement. It could be just like a wrist flip.
Exactly, versus having your hips involved and your lower body involved,
using power
and so forth.
And all that.
What's the other question that came in? I think one came in for John, right?
Yes, on Facebook, Jimmy Hoffa, he asked, do you rely on any type of technology?
Wait a minute. What's the person's name?
Jimmy Hoffa.
Oh, I like that.
So we know where he is now?
Yeah, exactly. We do know where he is.
Good to know.
Do you use any type of technology?
On occasion, I use I'll use like an iPhone app.
Okay. Tell us about some of those apps. Now, there's a bunch of them,
right? There's hundreds of them. Some of them are free. You'll have to deal with advertising that pops up on them. And some of them are, $10, $20.
And then that's it. And then the advertising's done?
It's a one-time fee.
And what do they do? Like, what's one that you use?
Well, they track movement, but it's different. They don't track it the way a pedometer would with acceleration. They track it with GPS. It's using the GPS technology. So my understanding is it's a little bit more accurate. So it'll track it'll give you a pace. It'll give you pacing information. It'll actually show you on a map the path you took. So people can kind of compare their efforts on that same path, and then you can sort of compare each other's performance.
And then at the end of your workout, it spits back all the data.
It'll total up everything. But even throughout the workout, it'll have an audible cueing. It'll tell you your pacing. Every mile, it'll tell you where you're at. So you don't have to
just
even look
ran
at
this
it.
past mile at 6 minutes and 56 seconds.
Exactly.
Right, and then
so
you can. And then the next mile, for instance, you can determine whether it was slower or faster because of the data, right?
It'll give you a split, and then it'll continue to give you your pace. And it's a lot of information if you're interested in kind of a quality control for your
Now, does
workout.
this talk to you, or just is it data on the screen?
Oh, yeah, because if you're listening to music on your iPhone, it'll interrupt the music.
I don't want anybody to interrupt that music, especially if it's a really good song, but it just does it.
Well, apparently you don't care about your fitness.
I just don't care about that technology. I just want music playing, baby. That's all I want at that point.
You play Beatles a lot, so
That's right.
you definitely are probably working at a pretty good pace.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, a lot of they're just poppy, and they're working at the beat is actually relatively quick. So I get a good workout with the Beatles for sure. But there's no doubt about it that I said this in the beginning, that there's a lot of technology out there, but I would still say the number one form of, quote, technology is people just like to listen to music. It's a great motivator, and everybody likes music. It depends, or it changes from person to person. And if you can have this helpful information on top of the music, literally and figuratively, right?
Sure. Yeah.
It helps people, and it's a good motivator, right? They ran 3.5 miles today. Maybe they want to go for 3.6 tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's comparable to what happens in a group fitness situation where there's music playing in the background. You're more apt to try to keep up with some sort of rhythm that's dictated by the music.
That's right.
So if it's a good rhythm, if it's got a quick beat, then it's going to be fairly intensive.
Now, when you're doing this, using this app, you could be on a bike too, right? It would be the same thing because it's not determining movement. It's actually tracking you through this satellite.
Sure.
And so whether you're moving at 10 miles an hour on a bike or 4 miles an hour on the,
there's a lot of information that you input, and if you're riding a bike, you're going to put that in, and then some of the data kind of can be calculated a little differently. But I think the app's name is Map My Ride or Map My Run.
Map My Run, yeah.
Yeah, and it gives you all that information.
And I want to say that some of the apps will even tell you the elevation change. Like it'll tell you,
Sure.
It'll even show you like from a side view of when you went up, when you went down, and so forth. And I think people really like that stuff.
Yeah, well, it's way more information than you need.
Than you need. But I think that's one of the things about technology. It's kind of like a computer. Most people that are even techno people, they will get a computer that all of these programs and it has all this additional information on there, but they never use, but they like the fact that it has the capability to do this. And let's face it, that's some of the stuff with fitness is done too.
I mean, the data can be very important to you, but you got to understand how to use it. So, I mean, it requires a little bit of effort on the user's part to sort of figure out, okay, how can this data help me do what I want to do?
How can it help them? What's a practical application of this that is truly helpful?
Well, I mean, if you're not monitoring heart rate, pacing is an important information to have relative to your intensity.
Yeah, especially if people are competitors, like they want to do a 5K or a 10K. And I think a lot of people that bike, even for recreationally, they like to keep pace and like to keep tabs on their mileage and so forth.
And cadence. When you're cycling, you want to know, what kind of pedal speed you have. All that information is important, especially if you're competitive. You need to have all that.
Well, what's the name of the one? It's a bike trainer. Remember we talked about this off air.
Home bike trainer.
Home bike trainer. Yeah, and what this device does is the point is to actually have some road experiences. In other words, have a workout where you're on the road and there's a certain cadence that's kept with this technology. They know your pace, they know how far you went, and they even know elevation change. And part of the point is not only to collect that data and store that data, but it allows you, when you do your home training, for you to do the exact same workout. So let's say you go on Tuesday and you go, man, I had a really good workout. I like the pace that I was on. I like the elevation change I was on and so forth. I want to duplicate Tuesday's workout. Today, it's raining though. I'm going to be on my home bike trainer. And then what that program does, it tells you basically what to do so you mimic that workout from the day before. That's pretty cool.
It'll monitor your outdoor RPMs of the wheel, and then you can find a way to sort of duplicate that in a home setting. It's important. Your RPMs is an indication.
I think that's pretty neat. I'm wondering how many dozens of people are using that, maybe 3 or 4.
Well, they're pretty popular in a bike shop. That stuff's really popular.
Oh yeah, I know. In fact, my guess is that because there's kind of like a few people that do it, but almost everybody that does it's real serious, and you can just tell by
how to use it.
Their clothes. Like you don't see them in a t-shirt and shorts. They look like Lance Armstrong, right? They have all the crazy logos and stuff going on.
Tight-fitting shorts, all that.
We can talk about that for another program. Folks, if you're just joining us, you're listening to The Fitness Doctor. I'm Dr. John Acquaviva. This is ESPN 730. We're talking to clinical exercise physiologist John Ware about some of the latest and greatest in technology and fitness. What was one of the other ones that we have, John? The visor. What do you know about this?
Oh yeah, I'm not familiar with the name of it. It says it's called tracking visor.
Yeah,
and it's sort of like my understanding. It's like a heads-up display, so that you can sort of get that constant feedback while you run. There's a little bit of an image that sort of will throw up the information in front of you.
So you can either look at the mountains you're running to, or you can look at the data on the lid of your hat.
Exactly. It's almost like the what's the glasses now? The Google
Google Glass, I think it's called.
Yeah, technology. I would think.
Tell me when that comes out that there aren't going to be, they're going to say. Today, the Google Glass came out, and in a related story, there were an additional 25 million road accidents, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
or people who ran off the edge of a bridge.
Exactly. And that's my fear here is people are going to be,
so distracted.
Yeah, they're going to, run into traffic or run into the old lady.
I would think they would
concern.
make an alarm about something. You can't wear them while you're driving.
I hope so. Man, that's going to be crazy.
Yeah, all those images up in your face while you're trying to drive is
it's just too much.
Yeah, it's too much.
Oh, yeah. I think it's interesting, but it really could cause some safety issues and so forth.
Distractions is a good thing to a point.
Yeah, to a point. Absolutely. In fact, we want music to distract us, but not to the point to where, it's not going to distract our vision and our physical surroundings, but wearing something like that may very well do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's interesting information. However, that visor is really spitting out the same information that your app does, right? It sounds like all the same stuff.
Just a
your
little
pace, your distance, maybe the elevation changes and so forth. Yeah, I think all this is pretty good stuff. However, it has to come right back to, is it really going to help you? Is it going to motivate you to keep going or maybe even improve the pace? And with some people, it does. It's going to improve their fitness level through that. And I think if the sole reason to do it is that it keeps people engaged, it kind of piques their interest. They like to use it while they're doing a lot of stuff, including fitness. I'm all for it, right? I mean, there's nothing necessarily negative about it other than that minor thing we talked about, which may turn into a major thing with that Google Glass thing. But
indeed.
All right. We only have a couple minutes left, John. What's the takeaway message here on technology and fitness? What's a point or two that we can make about that?
Well, I mean, if you're having problems being motivated, then I think these tools can kind of get you moving. Yeah. At some point when you start seeing results, you very well might not need to rely on them that much, but it's certainly a good way to kind of get you over that initial hump.
Yeah. And for people that are a little more serious about their training, like for instance, they want to keep tabs on their intensity level through their heart rate. Heart rate monitors can do that. And there's a lot of devices that do that. And they're relatively cheap. I want to say used, of course, you could get it for probably $50, maybe even $25. But even new, I would think less than $100, you can get a heart rate monitor and something that would be able to.
Sure, yeah.
And you said as long as you have this iPhone, the apps are... Most of them are free. There's a couple of them they pay for. And would you say they're $10, $20?
Oh, at the most, yeah.
And for lifetime ownership of that app.
Yeah. And the other quick thing to tell is that it allows a trainer to remotely train you. If you can track data and then you can send it to them, they'll be able to, over the phone, give you some feedback about your
analyze
training.
and give some feedback. That's
it's getting to be more popular.
All right, that's all we have time for today. I want to thank my guest, John Ware, for being here once again. He's one of the best guests ever, maybe John in the top 3. So keep coming back, my man.
Nice.
Folks, remember, you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing. Join us next time on The Fitness Stuff.